I feel the liftoff. The clock has started. Roger, 0G, and I feel fine.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries. 2, 1, 0, 0.
Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, Roger. Go for deploy.
Everybody in the shuttle program, the crew is go for launch.
Roger. Nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center. I'm Reagan Scharfetter here in Florida, where NASA's SpaceX Crew-10 crew members are currently quarantining in astronaut crew quarters ahead of their launch to the International Space Station no earlier than Wednesday, March 12th. Joining us today virtually are Commander McClain, pilot Nichole Ayers, JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov. While aboard the station, the crew is scheduled to conduct material flammability tests for future spacecraft designs, engage with students via ham radio, and use its existing hardware to test a backup lunar navigation solution, and participate in an integrated study to better understand physiological and psychological changes to the human body to provide valuable insights for future deep space missions. All said, I know our media partners are eager to speak with the crew, but before we jump into our Q&A, I first want to pass it over to Commander McClain for some opening remarks.
Well, good evening from the astronaut quarantine facility here at Kennedy Space Center, Florida. The crew, we arrived today from Johnson Space Center in Houston. And it's really great to be down here. We got to fly in along the coast of Florida and look at the launch pads, and we're really looking forward to this mission and to talking to you about it this evening. Our crew of 4 people, myself, Anne McClain, Nichole Ayers, Kirill Peskov, and Takuya Onishi, we all come from very different backgrounds, different space agencies. We're excited to talk to you about our journeys. And just want to give a little bit of a background of this specific crew and our training to get to this point. We were each assigned to the Crew-10 mission somewhere around the early fall of 2023. So we have been training for about a year and a half for this specific mission to the International Space Station. I know that sometimes it can seem like launch dates move, and this one certainly has a little bit. But the mission that we have to the International Space Station has been the driving force and what we have been training for. We are ready to go with kind of whatever comes up over the next 6 months. Reagan, you mentioned some of the science experiments. We're going to have planned and unplanned maintenance to keep the space station running. We have a plethora of science experiments, both inside and outside of the space station. We have spacewalks. We have visiting vehicles, which include robotics. We have the potential of getting private astronaut missions. And so all of this has been included in our preparation, and we're ready to take your questions on some of that preparation or anything else that you'd like to hear about.
Now jump into our Q&A using our phone bridge. And for those of you on our phone bridge, please make sure to press *1 to jump into our question queue and *2 to take yourself back out. And with that, we are going to start with Chris Siegel.
Siegel?
Jim Siegel, you may go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm interested in any particular foods or other amenities that each one of the astronauts received in this particular mission. Did they request anything in particular, and what would that have been? Thank you.
Yep, I'll take that one. So we do get, in addition to the standard menu, we get to choose some what we call crew-selected menus. So we get to choose basically almost anything that's from the grocery store that can be considered shelf-stable. The food lab can then test it and either approve it or deny it based on microbial growth. So actually one of the things I'm looking forward to most, I found this little pack of hiking peanut butter on our recent trip to the Washington State to the northwest. It's a peanut butter with like espresso and chocolate in it. And then I also had some chocolate chips approved. So I'm going to take those chocolate chips, put them on the peanut butter on a spoon and twirl it around. It's my niece and nephew's favorite snack, so I'm excited to share that with them.
Anyone else?
I want to echo what Nichole just said. So from my previous experience of space flight, I found that food is really important to relieve our stress and also make our teams bonded together more strongly. And so I'm bringing some Japanese food to be able to share with my crew members, and also so that I can get some joy or relief from my routine works on board the station. So please imagine when you go to foreign countries, maybe for the first couple of days, you may look for something new food, but once you get used to a new environment, you get tired from the new food, and you might want to some local food you get used to. You get used to. So the same thing happens in space. I missed Japanese food a lot, so this time I'm bringing a lot of Japanese food as my crew personal food. So I'm really looking forward to enjoy those Japanese foods.
All right, we will go to our next question, which will be Marcia Dunn.
Good evening. For Anne, you've surely been talking to Butch and Sunny. What are they telling you? Are they pushing you to hurry up since they can't leave until you get there? And are you taking any presents or surprises up for them to celebrate the end of their unexpectedly long mission?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Marcia. We certainly talk to the Crew-10 astronauts more and more frequently as we get closer. We're about to be housemates here in a few days. Their spirits are high. But it's important to point out that as the mission date was getting set, there was a swath of a couple months where it could have landed. And as crew members, we don't get tied to any one date. One of my favorite sayings, you don't really know your space destiny until it's there. And so they really are in good spirits. Of course, they're ready to come home, and of course, we're ready to launch. But the most important thing is that we do both of those things safely. All of us take very serious our responsibility to be stewards of the International Space Station. That is a national orbiting laboratory that is extremely significant for scientific development, for using it as a proving ground for future deep space exploration, and we simply cannot leave it uncrewed or undercrewed for any period of time. And that is first and foremost on all of our minds when we go, is that level of responsibility, and it's certainly foremost on their minds. Honestly, I'm kind of most looking forward to breaking bread with those guys, talking to them, giving them big hugs. We go way back. We've gone camping out in Wyoming with Sunny. Butch and I were office mates when we first got here. Of course, Nick and I are classmates, and we flew together last time. In fact, he flew up right after I got there. We got to spend a significant portion of our mission together. And so, of course, everybody is ready to, like I said, we're ready to go up there. They're ready to come home. But we're not overly tied to when that happens. We are really appreciative to our program managers, NASA, SpaceX, for making the decision based on technical readiness of the equipment.
Okay, next question goes to Gina Sinceri with ABC News.
This question is for Anne. You're a space station veteran. Did you make any promises to yourself when you left the last time that you would take something different or take different views when you got back? What did you decide you'd do differently?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. I'd like to hear Talk's perspective on that, too. My crewmate, David St. Jacques, said something that was really poignant on the very last day when we were there our last mission in Expedition 59. And he said, you know, one of us may be back to the space station, but of course it's never a promise. And if we come back, it's going to be different. It's going to be a different time. It's going to be a different mission. It's going to be with a different crew on a different vehicle. And we're going to be different people, you know, in the years down the road. And that was so significant to me because I'm so looking forward to the space station, going back to the space station, but I'm very aware that the space station, it's different. You know, it's very modular inside. There's different experiments. There's different stowage. There's, you know, there's just different racks in each of the modules that we can go into. So physically, it's going to look different. The crew is going to be different. You know, we've worked together and trained together. It's very different flying up on a U.S. vehicle out of Florida. But, you know, I think the big thing that I reflected back on and what surprised me was what I remembered as the years went on that I found important. So I think what I'm trying to do this mission is really remember the important amidst the urgent. Everything is extremely important that we do every day when we get up there. And sometimes you forget to step back and look at the people you're sharing it with. You forget to step back and look out the window and really just take in the significance of where you are. So I think to answer your question directly on this mission, I'm going to really try to savor those little in-between moments, maybe a little more than I did last time.
So during my first space flight, I worked very closely with my lead JAXA flight directors, and I thought that job was much more challenging than I initially thought. So I thought I needed to get to know the other side of operations, so I decided to get qualified as a JAXA flight director post-flight, and I went through the training as a flight control team member, and I finally got qualified, and I worked with my colleagues of JAXA flight control teams. So now I can say I know the both sides of ISS operations, so I believe I can do a better job for this time. So that's something I'm really looking forward to for this time.
All right, we'll go and we'll pass it on to Jonathan Seri with Fox.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this evening. My question is for both NASA astronauts. In addition to being a research mission, Crew-10 is also part of the process that will allow Butch and Sunny to return to Earth. I'd love to hear you share your thoughts on the duality of this mission, or whether you approach it as you would any other space mission.
Yeah, I think actually you might have said it best about kind of approaching it as any other mission. You know, how Butch and Sunny became members of Expedition 72 may have been different than how each of us were assigned to be members of Expedition 73. But the fact is they are members of Expedition 72, doing all of the same procedures, maintenance, and tasks that all of our crews do. And so I think that we really look at it as a very typical handover. During our handover period, we schedule very distinct activities for the outgoing and the incoming crews to hand over duties. They are going to be some of the people that are training us in current space station operations in that handover. And I think it's important to remember that space station has been in low Earth orbit for about 25 years and continually crewed during that time. A typical duration for a space station mission is about 6 months. But just in the last 10 years, we've had 5 U.S. astronauts that have flown over 290 days. And so the duration that Butch and Sunny have been flying is a little bit longer than our typical 6 months, but it's also not on the higher end of what we've seen over the last 10 years. And so we're looking forward to getting up there, but I think most of all, it's going to be a very typical and nominal ISS handover.
I would just echo what Ann said. I think that our ISS program manager said it great earlier this evening, that we are prepared for almost anything here at NASA. That's one of our strengths. We're always ready with a backup plan. And so that backup plan turned into our primary plan, where now Butch and Sunny have become part of Expedition 72, and really excited to high-five them and get the handover from them and take the watch after they go home.
All right, we'll go to Will Robinson-Smith with Spaceflight Now.
Hi, thanks for taking the time to talk with us this evening. Question for Nichole. You're the first member of your astronaut class that flies to head up into space. I wonder, have you had a chance to really talk with your classmates about that? And are you bringing anything up in honor of the fly's first foray to the space station?
Thank you for the question. It's an honor to represent my class and be the first one, but I think that all of us were ready at the same time, and so it could have been any one of us that got picked. And so I'm honored and grateful to be the one making the first step. I don't want to ruin the surprise. I am flying something for all of them, but I don't want to say it out loud at this moment, but I am doing some special things for the flies. And I'm just excited to share the experience with them. There was nothing but love for me when I got announced for this mission, and there has been nothing but love and support from my crewmates and my classmates this entire time training. So it has been, like I said, a true honor and pleasure training with this crew and getting to know all of them, but also continued support from my classmates, and excited to high-five them on orbit as well as we do handovers in the future.
And we'll pass it on to Miles Duran with CBS News.
Hi, good evening. For Anne McClain, we heard your remarks at your arrival this afternoon. You spoke passionately and at length about the importance of the ISS and of having leaders of good character. And I wonder what prompted the idea to talk about that today?
Gosh, I think, I've really been in awe of watching how in the last couple of months, our programs at NASA and the management at SpaceX have been working through some significant technical challenges and always coming out on top. And it really struck me how, these missions are not easy. They are so complex. And it takes a very large team of people who are doing work that at times is thankless. There are so many people whose names we don't know who are absolutely the keys to success of our mission. And I think that I have been very humbled by that. And so I think as we flew down to Kennedy Space Center this afternoon, I was just thinking about that. I was thinking about the agency flight readiness review that was going on today. I was thinking about all of the technicians that have their hands on the rocket, on the capsule right now. And there are so many people that are getting this ready. As four pilots sitting here, our background are all pilots. We're used to pre-flighting our aircraft. We go and we check every single system, every single compartment on the aircraft. We'll open up and look at. We look at the logbooks. We can't do that on a rocket or on a capsule. We rely on other people to do that. So I think that's what inspired my words, was just kind of coming in with a heart of gratitude for all the people that are really making this mission a success.
And we'll go to Josh Dinner with Space.com.
Hi, thank you. Speaking of checking every system, was the crew consulted or have any input in the decision to swap spacecraft, and how was that news received?
Yeah, so those decisions are really made by our program management level. And I will say that our engineers and our program managers keep the astronaut office and the flight operations directorate very well abreast of everything that is going on. We're aware of all of the technical issues, but we have an entire commercial crew program that is really the one that makes those decisions. And I can tell you that one of the things that I've reflected on is the strength of the NASA review and technical review processes. We look at firsthand data, we analyze it against our own standards, we define it, we have robust and sometimes heated conversations back and forth with people that may or may not agree. And I can tell you that I very much have faith in the answers that come out of those meetings. We have some extremely, extremely talented people working within NASA and in our commercial partners that are making those decisions.
And we'll go to Mikio Tanabe with NHK.
Thank you for taking my question. This question is for Onishi-san. So this will be your second time to stay at the International Space Station, and you will become an ISS commander while you are staying in the ISS. So can you please talk a little bit about how you are going to play your important role as an ISS commander, how you will help every crew member accomplish their mission and handle an emergency situation if it happens? Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the question. So, as you said, I will be the ISS commander for the first half portion of increment 73. and I'm really looking forward to that new role. And basically, the duties and responsibilities of the ISS commander is, first of all, to make sure that all crew members are safe, and also the International Space Station is also safe. So that's my ultimate goal as the ISS commander. And based on my experience that we went through some emergency training together in Houston or in Moscow, I have already built like strong trust and also confidence in my crewmates, because they are so capable and we are all pilots, so we are so used to like a quickly response to some emerging situations and following procedures. And even if the situation deviates from our standard procedures, I already saw a couple of times that each crew member responded to that new situation, then kind of swapping their roles independently. So I'm super confident in my crewmates. So everything should be good for us. Then as the commander, I want to make sure that everybody is happy with my decisions. So I will try to make sure that I listen to everybody's opinions before I make any decisions. And also I'm always be open to any feedback from you guys. So thank you very much.
And we'll pass it to Paige Reynolds with KRDO TV.
Hi, congratulations to you all. My question's for Nichole. Can you just describe how your upbringing in Colorado Springs and Woodland Park, both schooling and the community, has guided you to get where you're at today?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I love to highlight Colorado. It's one of my favorite places. I grew up there. As a child, I always had an affinity for the sky and flying and for space. And then growing up right there in Colorado, next to the Air Force Academy during the shuttle era, when I learned you could fly the shuttle, I was like, oh, sold. That's what I want to do. I want to be a pilot in the Air Force. And the Air Force Academy right there with the Thunderbirds flying over every year was just a natural decision for me. But one of my favorite parts about growing up in Colorado is the exploring and the ability to go hiking and camping and kind of figuring out how to live in austere places, which has turned out to be a great analog for what we're training to do here and now. And then, I went to middle school in Colorado Springs and then high school in Woodland Park, and was able to learn a ton about math. That's kind of my favorite subject. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I was a math major in college, and my master's degree is in math as well. So just growing up in that environment, and then also the schooling where I was able to really excel and advance in math and get to the Air Force Academy, and then played sports my whole time there as well. So plenty of opportunities in Colorado, both outside and inside the school system, and it really set me up for success to get where I am today.
All right, and we'll go to Austin Sack with KXRM TV.
Yes, hello. I wish you all the best on your mission. This question is also for Nichole. Kind of similar, your ties to Colorado, but I was hoping you could expand and share as much as you can about the level of training that you had to go through to make it to this point. Obviously, being in the Air Force Academy, you went through similar training or somewhat similar to. So what was maybe the difficult part of training to be an astronaut? And if you had a tip for any younger community members growing up who have dreams to follow your shoes one day?
Sure. Yeah, that is a wonderful question. Going to the Air Force Academy, it's a military academy, obviously, so you go through basic training and then went through a lot of different programs while I was there. I then went on to get a master's degree and went on to pilot training. And then I learned how to fly the T-38, and then I learned how to fly the F-22. So each of those are formal courses for the Air Force. And then I came here and started the formal course, the initial training for us as an ASCAN. So 2 years of initial training followed by a year to year and a half of training for this mission. So I like to say that I've been just living in a training environment for most of my career, but I've learned a ton, and I'm excited to go execute this mission. And I think that what I would say is that one of the most challenging parts of our training here in ASCAN training is the neutral buoyancy lab and learning how to do a spacewalk. As a F-22 pilot, we were kind of on the operational tip of the spear. in the military, and now we get to go do things that are on the operational tip of the spear for humanity and go out into the vacuum of space in a spacesuit that is basically like a small spacecraft. And so it's just you and your buddy out there, and you're working to fix something that broke on the space station. And if you run into a problem, it's on you guys to work with the ground team to come up with a good game plan to fix it. And so it was one of the most challenging and rewarding parts of the training here at NASA. And then the thing that I would say to everybody, that I always say to everybody and all the little kids out there is, find something you're passionate about. I mentioned I love math. That took me pretty far in academics, and I loved flying. And so find something you're passionate about, go work really hard at it, get good at it, and then surround yourself with good people, because you're probably going to be on a team somewhere. So I always say be a good teammate, be a good human, and work hard, and you'll get anywhere you want in life.
Okay, next question comes from Pablo Fuente.
Hi, thank you for doing this. My question is for Anne. It is my understanding that the handover is going to last 2 days instead of 5. Considering that you have rookies on this flight, do you guys did some pre-work on Earth to be able to work through that process efficiently? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question on the handover. I appreciate that. And of course, as was mentioned in the mission management press conference right before us, it will be potentially a shorter handover. So first I want to say something about the capabilities of our first-time flyers. And that is, if these first-time flyers, if nobody was on space station and we weren't with them, they could absolutely go up and do the space station mission. Would it take a few more calls to the ground? Yes. Would some mistakes be made? Maybe here and there. But I will tell you that efficiency is what we're really going after or during this handover period, because time is money on space station. Astronaut crew time is expensive, and we want to be as efficient as possible, as quickly as possible. And so the question for handover, it's not one of safety, it's not one of mission accomplishment, it's how efficient can we get? So space station does change around on the inside a little bit, and so even Takuya and I, the veterans of the space station, we're going to need to go in and see kind of how they're doing things right now, make sure we can fall into the mission in that way. But it's also important to remember we have another crew member up there. Don Pettit is our Soyuz crew member, and they are not doing a handover until April. So even though Crew-9 will return, we will have somebody that has been up there since last fall that can show us the ropes and show us any gaps in our knowledge. And we certainly have enough time with Crew-9, with Nick Hague in particular, to get a really good Dragon docked operation handover. I don't think the shortened handover is going to be any problem, and certainly everybody on the crew is ready to execute.
All right, next question comes from Robert Perlman with Collect Space.
Thank you. 2 questions about symbols for your mission to any crew member that's appropriate. First, NASA made note that you designed your mission patch first by using AI. Can you describe that process? What prompts did you give it? And second, until you swapped capsules, I think you were in a position to name SpaceX's New Dragon. Did you pick out a name already? And do you know if that name will stick, or does that now fall to its next crew?
I'll take the first part of that question. So I was one of the masterminds behind the patch here. And, as I sat down to try to think of, I'm not an artist. I said I'm a mathematician. So as I sat down to try to think of who our crew is and what we want to represent, this day and age, AI is a really cool tool that we get to use to kind of help us brainstorm things. And so my husband and I sat down and we just started typing out things in an AI image generator, and eventually came up with a few ideas that I liked, pulled from those, and then sat down with an artist and really discussed the vision for the patch, which is in the rest of that patch description. We wanted to highlight the fact that all 4 of us are professionally trained pilots, which is why the wings are featured on the patch, and then the ascending and descending trajectory in the form of a Roman numeral X for Crew-10. There's 10 sides to the patch. There's all sorts of meaning in the patch, and so it was just kind of a booster for the brainstorm, which then kickstarted our discussions as a crew on what we wanted in the patch, and then sat down with an artist, and our artist took what I said to him, ran with it, and came out with this amazing and beautiful patch that we're all very proud of.
Amazing. Oh, sorry, Anne, were you going to finish there?
Yeah, just to get the second half of that question, it has become kind of a tradition that the first crew to fly on a spacecraft gets to name it. So yes, we had thought about it, but maybe even more significantly, we had been lobbied by many different people who had ideas for us. Would like to recognize our excellent flight director, Allison, and her Athena flight control team. She was really gunning for that name. We're not going to share what we would have named the capsule, but we have told the next couple crews that may potentially fly it. We are now the lobbyists, lobbying them to name it, give it our name. So TBD.
All right, we'll go over to Nicholas Gibson with Action News.
Hi there. This is Nick Gibson with the Spokesman Review. Sorry about that. Anne and Takuya, this will be a return trip for you, so I'm curious what perspectives or life lessons stayed with you from your last stints. And for Kirill and Nichole, how do you think this experience might change you? Thank you.
So in addition to my experience as a JAXA flight director, so I flew to the International Space Station in 2016, so it's been already 9 years, and since then, I'm sure there are a lot of progresses in our operational systems as well as our research. So I really want to see those progresses in our operations and research.
I think one of the lessons that I took from last time was kind of the level of technical proficiency that you have to operate in every single day, but at the same time, how much you rely on your crew members. As soon as our crew was named, I think I flashed back to my last flight and remembered how the crew that I flew with, they are my brothers and sisters. You know, I still get a huge smile on my face every time I see them in the hallway, and I realize, you know, these are the people that I'm going to build that same relationship with, while we all get to, one, live out a dream, and two, we get to be operators on this amazing equipment, both flying up there on a SpaceX Dragon and being part of the space station crew. So I think I'm just really humbled by the magnitude of the experience.
Well, answering my part of question, I think it's hard to predict how this flight will change me, but I'm sure that I will get a wonderful experience and a lot of experience that I'll be able to apply in future missions, and hopefully we'll have some future projects together and build some more science.
And I think for me, I'm excited about the view, getting to see the world from that perspective. But I've talked a lot about teams this evening, and I'm excited to share the experience with this team, but also to see the team that we are on the ground. You know, there are no borders. You can't see borders from the space station. So I'm excited to see how all of us individuals form into one world while we're up there.
Okay, next question is from Jackie Goddard with The Times.
Hello, thank you. Anne, you said earlier when you arrived that you rely on the media to be telling your stories, and there's been quite a story woven around your mission. So after you've rescued Butch and Sonny, for each of you, what is the activity or project or experiment that you're most looking forward to that will define your part in the space station story? Thank you.
I think for me, I'm most excited about all of the human science that I volunteered for. You know, we don't get to learn anything about the human body in space unless an astronaut has volunteered for that experiment. And so I'm most excited to, you know, donate my my body to science. And, you know, I'm involved in a cartilage study, a bone study, an eye study, so all sorts of different things that we're going to learn just from living in space for a long duration. And, you know, I'm excited to see how we use all of those experiments to then get onto the moon and onto Mars, and how we use that and extrapolate that data into longer duration missions as we continue to explore further outside of our atmosphere and onto the universe.
I think one of the things I'm looking forward to is seeing the advancement in technology and science since the last flight. You know, it's easy to say space station's been flying for 25 years. It benefits everybody on Earth. But when you are living it year to year to year, you see these like logarithmic leaps in our ability to do science on the space station. And every single year that space station flies, there is more benefit to everybody on Earth. One of those that I'm looking forward to is our protein crystal growth experiments that we are running on space station. It is a similar type of experiment, but it's being run in a completely different manner now than it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we were saying, could we grow crystals on space station? And now we're saying, wow, we can grow crystals on space station. How can we maximize these to better cancer research, the better Parkinson's research? Cancer immunotherapy drugs. 10 years ago, if you got cancer, the robust benefits of immunotherapy and Keytruda were not as known as they are now. The rate at which we were able to learn about those was significantly increased on space station. So I think what I'm looking really forward to is kind of comparing how we do things now to what we did 5 years ago, and then being part of one of those breakthrough experiments that is going to happen on 2025. And we're going to find out what that is when we're there.
So one of the experiments I'm really looking forward to is called ELF, E-L-F. That means electrostatic levitation furnace. So instead of building a furnace with thick metal walls on the ground, we use electrostatic force to levitate the sample and also control its position. And we use lasers to heat it up to 3,000 degrees Celsius. To understand how the material samples behaves at such high temperatures, such as viscosity and surface tension and so on. We can use the same technology on the ground, but the range of materials we can levitate is very limited on the ground because of the existence of the gravity. So that's why we do this experiment in space. Then the reason why I'm really looking forward to this experiment is in 2016, I worked on the initial checkout of this experiment device. And we have been going through a lot of technical challenges with this device initially because it was so difficult and challenging than we thought initially to precisely control the tiny piece of sample using electrostatic force. But we made some adjustment to our software, and also we made some adjustment or developed a new piece of hardware for modification. Then now it became a super active, one of the most active experiment machines working in the Japanese experiment module right now. So I can't wait working on that experiment device again.
Our next question comes from Yusuke Tomiyama.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. I have two quick questions for Mr. Onishi. I remember that you clearly stated your ambition to land on the moon shortly after the U.S.-Japan agreement to send Japanese astronauts to the moon. I would like to ask you again about your current thoughts and motivations on future lunar mission. The second question is that over the decade, you have been one of the youngest astronauts in JAXA since you were selected as an astronaut candidate in 2009. Now, 2 new astronauts joined JAXA. Are there any changes in your mind after having junior colleagues as astronauts? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So, yeah, as an astronaut, of course, I want to go to the moon if I get a chance. But I'm sure everybody wants to do the same thing. Then everybody is also trying to do their best to achieve the goal. So I think it is important to try to always do my best in any situation that I'm given. So, yeah, of course, I always dream about going to the moon, but right now I just focus on my current mission, this ISS Expedition 72, 73, and by achieving, by showing our team's capability throughout the mission, could lead up to achieving my childish dream in the future. So that's my goal for now. And as you mentioned, we have now 2 new Askans in JAXA, and they are already my good friends. So I know they are so capable, and also they are still young, much younger. One of them is much younger than me, so I guess she has much more chances than I, because I'm getting old, and I don't know how much time I have left in order to make my dream comes true. So I wish them best luck in their future explorations, and also their first future space missions as well.
All right, next question goes to Sergei Yumatov.
Hi, everyone. My question is actually for Kirill. Kirill, how are you feeling ahead of your first space flight? And have you received any tips for your Roscosmos colleagues who have already flown on Crew-Dragon spacecraft?
Yep, I got a couple.
All right, I think that will go ahead and conclude today's Crew News Conference. Again, I want to extend a huge thank you to our crew, as well as all of our media partners who have dialed in today, and for every one of you who tuned in today using NASA Plus. Coverage of Crew-10 launch begins at 3:45 p.m. Eastern, with launch at 7:48 p.m. Eastern. And with that, go Crew-10, go NASA, and we'll see you next time.